Greetings, good people of Earth. It's your girl here, Andulairah. And after being put in YouTube's jail for a week because I've been naughty, I'm back and I'm going to rehash over the video that I made as a live stream last week, which was Golden Age, the reptilians, friend or foe. But obviously talking about sensitive information, talking about truths and sharing what I believe to be the truth, and connecting, pieces of the puzzle together. YouTube doesn't like that correlation, and speaking truths and sharing wisdom and good information to the majority of the sound people of our planet. And so I was booted off, given a strike, and banned for misinformation for a week. So I was put in the naughty corner, and now I am coming to you again because I don't give a damn, and I don't mind taking a risk. I don't mind taking a chance because I believe this is important information and logical information in a pretty much illogical fucking world. Let's talk about it. I got my gloves on, YouTube. Come at me again, I don't mind. So talking about the reptilians, the reptilian agenda. As I briefly discussed last week, those of us in this, kind of mishmash New Age movement, and the movement of the New Age in general, I should say, there tends to be a habit of categorizing certain star groups into categories, categorizing the negative ETs, the good ETs, the whole duality, who's good, who's bad, which is, really kind of juvenile, because essentially there isn't a civilization that is all evil or all good. It's the same with the reptilians, and since we're talking about them today, I wanted to bring up and highlight the information and the encounter that this man had, who goes by the name of EF, in Sweden, in the east of Sweden, and he talks of encountering this reptilian female being. And of course, in the beginning, she didn't appear as a reptilian. She used the mimicry and the disguise of a human being. So reptilians, as David Icke has mentioned, they can shapeshift. They can shapeshift and wear this illusionary disguise to appear within our society as a human being. And for most of us, we wouldn't even give it a second thought. So she used this guise, but eventually, as she got talking to EF, she revealed her true identity, and he was not happy with that in the beginning. He was quite, angry and frustrated, and it really rocked his reality, really changed the way he perceived the world, because in his eyes, it was as it appears to be on the surface. What you see is what you get, when in actual fact, the reality is something much different. So she started to impart this incredible wisdom and knowledge about the reptilians, the ones that claim to be native to planet Earth. They claim to be the native Terrans to this planet, and that they have been here for a very, very long time. And they're not entirely sure of when they first come here, but it was millions and millions of years ago. And they claim that we as human beings are the result of intense genetic manipulation, and that our origins are from the simian ancestors, aka the monkey or the chimpanzee, and we were a product of somebody else's intervention, taken off world and genetically manipulated in accordance to their objectives, whatever they shall be. And so there have been many upgrades throughout these years, throughout these millions of years. But in saying that, it's not all been a bed of roses. It's been a lot of conflict with other ancient races. And so Lacerda has said that there has been a conflict going on between us and them for a very long time. Not so much us, but those that created us. And they will term them as the Elohim, or the Elohim, however you would like to pronounce it. And namely from the star Aldebaran. But up until 16,000 years ago, Lacerda actually says that her kind believed their origins to be more of a religious or spiritual story. Like, they didn't have the background knowledge of how they actually arrived first on Earth. Obviously they've been there for a long time, but they didn't actually have the origins of their beginning. And what they come to learn 16,000 years ago was that there was an immense war, galactic war, happening between certain star groups 65 million years ago. And the reason they know this is they found a disk in the landmass that we would know as America today. And this capsule, this disk, it was a plate that was buried by the star people of Procyon. And on this disk, their scientists, the reptilian scientists, actually deciphered the information and come to learn that there was an immense galactic war happening 65 million years ago. And it was between the Procyon star people and another group that Lacerda says there's no bother trying to pronounce because it would not only hurt our ears, but she couldn't pronounce it anyway. And it was because of this war that the dinosaurs were wiped out. Now, in saying this, I am someone that researches this galactic history because I would like to know the truth. I would like to know the truth about what we are and how we came about and the actual true nature of our planetary history. And that means keeping an open mind, because what we are taught couldn't be further from the truth. And we are forever having our heads in the goddamn sand, and we will never be told of the truth, because being told the truth then spins out another spider web, and then that web leads onto another web, and it just becomes this big, messy, confusing perception of our history that most likely people will not believe or even understand. It would absolutely challenge the very nature of their existence, and people would find it very hard to stomach anything other than what they've been told or what is accepted. And so, with me being a researcher, I have also collated other information that to me is absolute timeless information, and it checks out with what Lacerda is saying. And this information given from the Brothers of the Solar Cross that are based on Mars. Most of them are from Mars, but many are also not. But they come together as a collective, as a confederation. They also share the same information, that there was a skirmish that broke out between two warring space clans, two different civilizations, which was the result of the extinction of the dinosaurs. And so this is the truth of it. It's not an asteroid that just randomly come and hit the earth and wiped out the dinosaurs. It was an actual war, and that galactic group that used this bomb, the Brothers of the Solar Cross call it a bomb made of what is known as calneutronite. It's not specified with the Lacerda files, but they say that the scientists that created this with these warring factions underestimated the actual power of this device that they detonated, and it kept drawing up heavier and heavier elements, and the resulting explosion just absolutely decimated pretty much all life on Earth, and anything that did survive did not last because of the smoke, the pollution, and the catastrophe that was left on the surface. And so pretty much became a dark planet with smoke, nuclear radiation, and wiped out the rest of anything else existing naturally on the planet. And so they call it a nuclear winter for 200 years or more of the Earth in this dark age of nothing surviving. And anything that did survive obviously became mutated and adapted to these new climatic and environmental conditions and survived. So there are some things that have survived. They talk about things like the horseshoe crab being one of the only things that has pretty much survived everything. And so poor little crab on the beach is something that has just withstood the monstrosities of the planet and what the planet's gone through more than anything else that's ever been in existence. Perhaps even the cockroach, all these little critters that, you know, kind of aren't given the time of day, where in actual fact their resilience to adaptation and living is noble and honorable beyond measure. And so the Brothers of the Solar Cross actually go into a little more detail than what Lacerda does, saying that it was involving the two land masses at the time, which was Atlantis and Lemuria, and for many, many, many years, for hundreds of years, they existed peacefully and amicably with each other. They lived in peace. Of course they would have lived in peace, but they say that there was a race that was coming for an ulterior motive, namely the resources of the planet, which Lacerda also confirms. They had an interest in the raw minerals of the planet, especially things like copper and bismuth, things that can be utilized. Copper has is highly regarded and valued in space operation and in space manufacturing, more so than what we could ever use it on Earth. So it's probably even worth more than gold. But the Brothers of the Solar Cross actually say how this race came in and infiltrated the Atlans and influenced their minds and made them start thinking a different way. And soon enough, these once coexisting civilizations became warring, and they fought with each other. And eventually, this is where Atlantis, you know, this device was used, and these land masses were destroyed. Lacerda actually says this warring species, they were an actual reptilian race, which are not by any means any kind of relation to them. There is no, they can't even pronounce their name. So this is what I mean. So this just shows you that although these two races, these particular ones, you know, Lacerda's kind and this warring one that's come from another bubble, in her words, she's saying this warring one came from a different bubble in the foam of the multiverse. So they have no relation, they have no connection, yet they're two reptilian species. And for us, we would quickly categorize those as, oh, they're reptilian, they're immediately bad, in our prosaic mindset, how we, you know, many of us in the New Age movement think and categorize, saying that all reptilians are bad. But just the very fact that Lacerda came to the surface of the planet and reached out to EF and sat down and shared with him just the most incredible information speaks volumes of the individual that Lacerda is. She calls herself a student of, you know, perhaps anthropology, and she is there to observe, to learn more about this human race that's made up of a conglomerate of DNA and energy that's we are a mishmash of so many things, of so many denominations. We really are. Our DNA is just, a vacuum of stardust, of star stuff, and we are so much more than what we could possibly ever know. And I'm always saying that. But by the very fact that Lacerda has come to the surface and is sharing this information, it says, and it speaks volumes of the kind of individual that she is. So taking that alone and keeping an open mind to that, when you first hear of an ancient war going on in space between these two different star groups, I mean, it seems to the normal person, quote unquote normal person, it seems so far-fetched that they could not possibly ingest such information to be the absolute truth. But when you start to find more information, and that other star groups are saying the same thing, like, shouldn't that be enough? Shouldn't it at least warrant an open mind to entertaining something like this? I think so. I think a healthy individual would absolutely approach this from an unbiased, neutral perspective, and can sit and actually just say, you know what happens if this is the actual truth? What happens if this is the true nature of our reality, and our actual current governments and people of the world who are in the know are actually lying to us, and have been lying to us for a very long time? So I don't think it's too far-fetched. I think any healthy individual with a sound mind and who can handle opinions of the broad spectrum, I think it's a credit to them to keep an open mind. But the more you delve into this and research, you find that it actually checks out. And Lacerda's information was given in 1997 to EF, and the Brothers of the Solar Cross was channeled in the early 50s, 1950s, and they're both saying the same thing. They have no connection. So I pay attention. I pay attention to that. So the dinosaur extinction was not due to an asteroid hitting the planet. The extinction of the dinosaurs was to do with a galactic war between warring groups that were in a feud, and that was the result. Lacerda says there's always been an immense interest in this planet because of its raw elements, minerals, and resources that are highly attractive to many of these space races. And at the time in the 90s, when Lacerda was meeting with EF, she had said that there were 14 different races visiting our planet at that time. Obviously, we're over 20 years later, this number has most likely changed, but at the time she said there were 11 races from this universe, 2 from another bubble within the foam of the omniverse or the multiverse. How that even is, what that even is a mystery to me. And then there was one very advanced race from a different place altogether. What kind of a different place could they be from? This is so deep into metaphysics and the true nature of our reality to even comprehend, an advanced race coming from a different place altogether. She's got here 11 from this universe. So obviously when we think of a universe, we would think as a stretch or a bubble, an immense infinite bubble of a gazillion stars, planets, and space, and we exist within that reality. I think most people would be safe to say that that's how they would view a universe. And then 2 from another bubble. Is she saying these other bubbles are other universes? When I think about a universe being that it's its own self-contained but ever-growing thing, this symbiotic creation, I guess you could call it, I get the immediate clairvoyant picture of a very frothy, bubbly bubble bath. And when you see bubbles forming and how they squeeze, they don't break each other, but they kind of squeeze, push up through, and the bubble grows, and the other bubble, next to it may change shape, but it doesn't break. Have you noticed that? That's the impression that I get within this foamy omniverse, that there's all these bubbles that coexist at the same time, and they all have different shapes and sizes, but they don't break each other. If one gets bigger, another may get smaller or condense, push out in another direction, but they all exist. That is the immediate clairvoyant impression that I'm left with, that I believe I'm receiving from my higher sources to give me a simple understanding of what the foam of the omniverse could possibly mean. And then this one very advanced race from a different plane, I have no idea what that could even mean. What does that mean? A different plane. And even Lacerda says the way that you humans view dimensions and plane is not correct. Please correct me. How do we interpret this? I would like to know. I would like to sit with Lacerda and hear what she has to say. I welcome it at any time. So she says that most of these races, these 14 species at the time of the late 90s, most are here studying us, and they are not dangerous, mostly just observing us. But 3 are hostile, including the one in touch with our government. That kind of, makes your ears twitch a little bit, doesn't it? With the whole 1954 deal that Eisenhower made with supposedly, the Greys, or at least a group of the Greys, because again, the Greys kind of fall in that category that they're all negative and they're all self-serving. But in actual fact, there could be an infinite amount of different species of Greys also. So they're kind of in the same category as the reptilians, getting tarnished with a brush that, doesn't paint them in a good light. Lacerda also talks about the wars that have happened in the past, but the war to come, the coming war. And gee, look at where we are in the world. Our freedom of speech is being limited more and more. Obviously, take my example. I've been booted off of YouTube. I've got 2 strikes on my channel now, probably up for a 3rd, and this channel will probably be booted, no doubt. But I can't live not speaking my mind and speaking what I believe to be the truth. And if that means my channel is gone, then so be it. Good luck to YouTube, then so be it, and I can live with that. I'll just post from my website and put my videos up there. And although I'm sure my audience will change because a lot of people enjoy YouTube and the convenience of the platform, I'm not about convenience. I'm always about pushing boundaries and not staying comfortable. So YouTube hasn't been my friend since 2019, so no love lost. So if that happens, then whatever, we'll see. But as I was saying, Lacerda's talking about this impending war. She's not the only one. There was even a document found on a photocopier that was put in William Cooper's book, Behold a Pale Horse, that was a CIA document that talked about the next war being a bloodless war. Obviously, not with guns and bow and arrows or whatever, but one that was going to be a biological war, so bio-warfare basically. And gee, look what's happening. And so, it's kind of strange what's been happening in our world for the last 3 years. I'm not going to mention it on here because we all know what I'm talking about. I don't need to spell it out for people to know what I'm talking about. This is most likely what got me in trouble with my last video. So to save myself the headache of being booted in the naughty corner of YouTube again, I'm not going to say it here, but we all know what I'm talking about. So I would absolutely say that this is the precipice of the war to come and what's going to follow in the next 10 to 15 years. This is why I've always pushed for people to get their priorities straight and do what they should be doing to help themselves survive whatever is to come. Obviously, whatever is to come is going to affect people on different levels, on different parts of the earth, but to have your main staples, your main resources for living and surviving available to you whenever you need them: water, clean air, sunshine, soil, so you can grow your own stuff, you can feed yourself, you can survive and have a roof over your head, not depending on electricity, setting up your own energy sources such as solar, whatever you got to do, whatever you feel is most important is what you should be investing your time, your money, and your effort into. And I keep pushing this in my videos that you've got to look after yourself and you've got to look after those around you and be prepared for what is to come, because there most likely will come a day where we won't be able to do this anymore, you and me talking on YouTube, and there is a cosmic blackout and communication as we know it now will be completely different. I hope it doesn't come to that. I hope that probable timeline does not come to pass. I hope that there is enough weight on the positive side of the scales that we shift and see the darkness and all the hypocrisy and tyranny that's happened on our planet. We're conscious enough to realize what's happening, and we pass it. We pass it with flying colors, and our world is saved, and we transmutate naturally into man, and not because of somebody else's force or coercion into becoming something that is artificial, something that is technological, something that is more separate from the true nature of what we are. This soul energy that is emanated within us, that is just so rich and so divine by right. Our sovereignty is just is incredible, what we are. And so I hope that we can naturally progress as a species. I don't want our species to die out, but shit, it's not looking good for us right now, is it? It's crazy. It's crazy what is happening. So this is why I'm saying to people, wake up, get your priorities straight, sort your affairs out, take care of yourself and your family and those that are around you. That will have a rippling effect, and other people will be inspired to do the same, to get off their asses, to put their phones down, to stop watching Netflix and get their shit in order. It is imperative that people do this. I can't say it enough, and I say it in almost every video. People have got to do what is right by them and their families, their friends, their small communities. Heaps of people around the world have their own small communities. They work together. I am in my place in the world, and I don't care what happens so long as I'm here. So long as I'm here, this is my place in the world, and so whatever the hell goes down, I'm where I need to be in the world. There is no other place that I would rather be on this planet than where I am right now. So I thank the universe for lining this up with me and allowing me to work my magic and my alchemy to make this to manifest exactly as I willed it to happen. And it's happened exactly as it's supposed to, exactly as I put it out. And you've got to believe in that power that you have to be able to manifest like that, because you all have the power to do whatever you wish you want to do. And that is something that I always drill home, is you must believe in the power and the sovereignty of your own creation and what you're capable of doing. You are so much more than what you could ever know. So don't ever forget that. So the reptilians of our planet, they say that they have been forced underground and they live in massive colonies on certain continents on the planet, and they are still worshipped by groups on the planet. And even Lacerda says that there is an altar dedicated to them under the capital, which I'm assuming is Washington, where they are worshipped. And not only that, many, even Credo Matwa, who the old sage, the African, a wise man, even said that his kind worshipped these reptilians as gods. And this was repeated with the Aztecs, the Egyptians, with the Mayans, that these gods, these reptilians were worshipped and were revered and are still to this day. But she said that their kind is still worshipped and still adored. And I'd like to think that although the reptilians have been given a bad rep, that there are those like Lacerda who are curious to learn, to know about the human beings on the planet, because although we are not very much respected, they don't have much time for us, because Lacerda says a lot of these colonies exist in very remote parts of the planet. Antarctica, there's a large colony under the ice. Linda Moulton Howe has done a lot of research into this. Spartan 1, the man that she interviews, talks a lot about their experience with finding these bases, particularly that massive octagonal greenish stone type base, a massive type of building or thing that they saw, that they witnessed with their own eyes. So there's bases in Antarctica, but also here in Australia, and I have often felt that around my area, a place that is highly sacred, full of high strangeness, that I talk about in my documentary Stardust and Aliens. And not only that, that Wilpena Pound is right next to grid point 44, where all the earth lines intersect, and this is the only intersection, major intersection on this landmass Australia. So there is something to that because of the amount of high strangeness in this area. So not only that, you know, it's so remote here. You could be anything here and get away with it. Reptilians could be walking along, you know, the beaten tracks out here. They'd never be seen. Like, there's just no people. I feel like I'm living in luxury by having this space and this freedom and solitude. I think it's priceless in a world like today. So these bases are everywhere. I even have a friend that has property next to Wilpena Pound, and in a very remote part of the property, which there are no roads and is only accessed by motorbike. Look at this, look at this. When he showed me this, I almost fell off the chair. They call it the slip. And I just said to him, oh my God, what the hell is this place? And he said, we've called it the slip, and nobody really knows much about it. But to me, could be an entrance to a chamber, could be an entrance to a colony, could be anything. But Lacerda says a lot of their entrances for the colonies actually start on the surface in mine shafts, and they take advantage of those and pretty much, you know, drill down, or however they get down and create these colonies. I don't even think they drill down. They probably manipulate time and space and mold the rock into what it is that they need it to be, to create and solidify these structures and foundations for their living. But she says, if you believe you are at the entrance, to get out and run away as fast as you can, because without a doubt you probably have been seen or felt, and you are in great danger. So she says, obviously she is a amicable, cordial reptilian, but there are those of her kind that disregard human life, see human life as a resource for them and a food source. And you know, we only have to talk about human mutilations, something that Linda Moulton Howe will not cover for her own reasons. But Richard D. Hall, who has also just recently been completely booted off of YouTube, he does have Rich Planet TV, where he goes into great detail about human mutilations and the cover-up that's involved by NATO, a special on-call group that is on call for 365 days of the year, 24/7, and they go to anywhere around the planet where they have to clean up either a crash craft, or there's been a situation where there's been human mutilation. And in fact, there was one such case in the Brecon Beacons, which is in Wales, a little bit north of Merthyr Tydfil, where a young couple was actually skinned. So their musculatory aspect or component of their body was left in place, but it was as if they had been peeled of their skin. What kind of a creature? I mean, humans couldn't even do that. Like, and this is what's happening. There was another infamous case in Brazil. I remember seeing those pictures back in 2009 and not believing that this could happen, that something could do that to a human being. And those pictures haunted me. I didn't want to even believe in something such as human mutilations at that point. But for a human to inflict those kinds of injuries in such a precise way, I don't believe that could ever be the case. It would have to be a creature or something that is capable of doing that. But that image of that poor man, like, that's never left me. And anybody else that has managed to see that, I don't even think it's on Google anymore. I think it's been taken down. I don't know where it is. I haven't seen it for a long time. I don't need to see it to remember it, because it was haunting. It was awful. And to think that this is happening on a regular basis, people going missing and their family being told that they've been missing, even if they've been found, but their injuries are so catastrophic and so traumatic and so inhumane that it's not even human doing it. How could you tell that to a family? That again opens up a can of worms, and it's a can of worms that you can't put back in the can. So it's very hard for people to deal with. Again, it conflicts with their personal beliefs about the nature of reality. But so some food for thought, people of Earth. Lacerta, if you haven't read the Lacerta files, anytime I had a video of the Lacerta files, it was taken down. It seems to be that videos that are, you know, if they're transcripted or audio versions of the Lacerta files, it's taken down pretty quick. So someone always tends to upload it though, but you might find it. But also EF says there was heaps more information that Lacerta gave him, but he was told not to release the information. I would love to have been a fly on the wall. So I hope you enjoy the recapping of the reptilians, friend or foe, and we'll see if this video is taken down, and if so, well, I'm back in the naughty corner again. Seems I'm always going to be in the naughty corner. But the main thing is that at least you are offered a different perspective. At least you're offered different ideas and opinions about things. Things that are hard to suppress for too much. Things that make you think and make you question the nature of your reality. In the meantime, I send you my blessings and love, and may you always, always be guided by the truth and love of the cosmos. Know who you are, people of Earth. You are so much more. Love you.